Hello, everyone. Buenas tardes. Hi. Hello, Caitlin. Hello, Andre. Hello, Manchita. It's nice to see you all. We'll be starting. I will give a few minutes for other people to join, and then we'll get started. Awesome. Okay, let's get started. So, hi, everyone. Welcome to this Share and Learn workshop. So Share and Learn workshop are really workshops designed by and for educators. So I will present myself. I will introduce myself. My name is Mary Catherine Touin, and I'm based in Sherbrooke, Quebec, and I'm the Global Citizenship Education Coordinator at Spur Change. And so I'm coordinating the Share and Learn workshop, and I'm really happy to have you here today. And before we begin, I just would like to say a few things. So one of the first thing is that today the workshop will be held in Spanish. But if you want to hear it in English or French, just look at the bottom of your screen for a symbol that looks like a planet. And then you can choose the language of your choice, French, English, or Spanish. And of course, I invite you to stay muted at all times, but you can use the chat to ask question or comment, or use the raise hand to ask questions. Awesome. Because it's a small workshop, I think we should get started right away. So first of all, Spur Change is co-hosting this workshop with Co-Development Canada. So CoDev is a solidarity organization that is working for social justice and global education in the Americas. So CoDev links unions and civil society organizations in Canada with like-minded organizations in all regions of Latin America to establish and sustain partnership to build solidarity, promote mutual understanding, and create change for a more just and equitable world. So today, representing CoDev is Diana Fashatny. So I will invite her to introduce herself and then introduce Mercedes, who will be our speaker today.
Hi, thanks, Marie-Catherine. My name is Diana Fashatny. I'm the Executive Director of Co-Development Canada, a Vancouver-based international solidarity organization that was founded in 1985 to facilitate solidarity-based partnerships between Canadian trade unions and civil society organizations, and civil society organizations and trade unions in Latin America. It is my pleasure to present today's amazing speaker, a true leader in her community and in the trade union movement in Puerto Rico, Mercedes Martinez, who is the president of the Federation of Puerto Rican, the Teachers Federation of Puerto Rico. The Teachers Federation of Puerto Rico is a federation of teachers founded in 1966. It's among the most important non-US aligned unions in Puerto Rico. Over the past 2 decades, the FMPR, as they are known by acronym, has become a driving force of popular democracy and community-based activism on the island. The FMPR has organized and mobilized teachers and entire communities to protect quality public education, demand fair wages, and respect for workers' rights, and oppose the privatization of over 300 schools and the privatization of Puerto Rico's formerly public power company. While the people of Puerto Rico are increasingly vulnerable to the disastrous effects of climate change, FMPR has become a leading force of community-based disaster relief on the island. It's in the classroom and in the communities that FMPR demonstrates ingenuity, innovation, and commitment to justice, equity, and community. FMPR has been an international solidarity partner of the BC Teachers Federation since 2017. Mercedes Martinez, our wonderful speaker and facilitator today, is a mother of 3. And she's been part of the FMPR since 2006 and its president since 2015. Mercedes obtained her master's degree in ESL from the University of Puerto Rico. In 2008, she participated with thousands of teachers in a 10-day strike, requesting a fair contract for teachers, no charter school implementation, a salary increase, and amongst other demands. As a result of their collective activism, wages were raised by 14% for all Puerto Rican teachers, and a no charter stipulation was signed by the Secretary of Education. Mercedes also took part in the fight against school closures in our country from 2014 to 2018, alongside community members and union activists. Mercedes participated in 2016 in the decolonization deposition hearings held in the United Nations. She appears in Naomi Klein's book and documentary, A Battle for Paradise. And she has represented the union nationwide and internationally in various events. Mercedes is a social justice and education justice fighter who fights for a public, accessible, free, and quality education for all. So if Mercedes, if you notice that there's any technical or technological issues with today, there is an interesting context for that. Mercedes is having to join us from her mobile phone in her vehicle because of a widespread blackout in Puerto Rico. And as Mercedes will demonstrate in her presentation, that this is an impact of a disaster capitalism and privatization. Several years ago, energy or power in Puerto Rico was privatized, and Puerto Ricans are having to deal with the management of their services by a foreign-owned company that's primarily Canadian in its ownership. So Mercedes, I pass the word on to you, and thank you for being here today, despite the challenges that disaster capitalism and privatization are posing for you and your comrades and in your community.
Thank you so much, Diana, for the introduction, and thank you for Whole Development and Spur Change for this opportunity to speak to other people. I'm going to speak in Spanish today because there's translation, so now I'm going to go back to my language. Nada, buenas tardes. Gracias por la oportunidad.
Thank you once again for the opportunity. Hopefully you can hear me okay. I believe the introduction was probably much better than expected. This is the real effect of privatization of public services. As Diana says, I'm here in my car because there's a blackout throughout the whole day in the place where I was born. And if I have any technical issues, apologies for that. But well, there's an internet issue because of this corrupt company, What Energy. Its headquarters are in Canada. So I think someone would like to share the screen. Thank you, Marie, for helping me out with the presentation. So let's begin, and we can probably share the slide now. Thanks. So this is a presentation that was prepared by Miguel Rivera Gonzalez and myself. He's the Secretary of the education division of the union. And you can actually understand the main topic of this presentation by looking at the title, Climate Change and Disaster Capitalism, the Attack Against Public Education and Teachers' Response. Next one, please. Before beginning, I believe that it is important to share these specific information. I think during the past decades, public education in Puerto Rico has been suffering this huge neoliberal orchestra that tries to dismantle public education. And it actually fights against all of us, the people of Puerto Rico, especially those connected to the union. We have been struggling against privatization to keep public education alive. Next, please. Before getting into specific details, I think it's important to understand the political, economic, and social context. Puerto Rico is a colony of the United States, and it actually manifests in the imposition of the political and education policies. These represent a cut, a budget reduction from government agencies. According to 2022 census, around 46% of our families in Puerto Rico live under poverty levels, and 58% of our children live under poverty. Since 2016, we were imposed a fiscal control board. It was appointed by the President of the United States so that Puerto Ricans pay an illegal debt. It exceeded the million US dollars. Education, health services, public services, privatization are results of such austerity measures. Severe austerity measures that impact livelihood of all Puerto Ricans. So since 2016, we have been imposed these different policies. In 2017, we faced two of the strongest hurricanes, Hurricanes Irma and Maria. Hurricane Irma, Category 5 hurricane, destroyed the educational infrastructure. The government at that time closed several schools. Apologies, I think that I have some internet connection issues. Can you hear me okay? Yes? Yes, we do. So I was mentioning the austerity measures, and as part of those measures, several schools were closed. The former secretary closed 44% of schools countrywide. following the disaster capitalism. Naomi Klein has mentioned this term several times. So they took advantage of these events and dismantled the whole educational system. 447 schools were closed, 102 schools in 2014, and in a year, thousands of schools were closed. Next one, please. That's exactly what I was mentioning. Julia Kelleher, the ex-secretary of education, convicted of corruption. She's already in prison and she promoted what she called an educational system change, which meant the shutdown of these 447 schools. In January 2020, an earthquake hit the island. As you can see in the image, schools collapsed. This is Agripina Cera, one of the schools that collapsed. It is located in the southern part of the country. In January, when we were celebrating the festivity, the earthquake hit, so no children were in classrooms at that time. No casualties were found. Infrastructural damage due to hurricanes, the two hurricanes in 2017, the earthquake of 2020, and last year, another hurricane, Fiona, hit the island. School infrastructure has been deeply impacted. And it is not due to lack of budget. There is budget. Actually, the largest budget is allocated for the educational sector. It even reached 5,000 US dollars, and it's probably the largest amount ever collected for the sector. So it is not a lack of budget, but rather a neoliberal plan in place where education is seen as a business. Without having recovered from the hurricanes and the earthquake, in March, we were hit by the COVID-19. The government declared a lockdown, but the government never forced any plan. There was no technologies for teachers nor students. So apart from natural disasters, hurricanes, earthquake, the pandemic impacted deeply the educational system. This is a photo of Huracán Fiona. This is a photo of the city where I live. flooding impacted all the streets, and education once again suffer from various impacts.
Y aquí nos lleva a ver esta parte de la presentación de que el desastre es político.
The disaster is political.
El desastre es político porque tenemos una administración
Why?
gubernamental que no ha sabido responder a las necesidades de
Because of the lack of
trabajadores y
provision
trabajadoras.
and effectiveness
Tenemos
to
una administración
establish
de
protocols to
instituciones
deal
gubernamentales
with the
que no ha
emergencies.
podido atender la situación de nuestras
The
escuelas,
government officials
donde las infraestructuras no están seguras,
were not
donde los
able
recursos no llegan
to
a las salas de
protect the
clase,
infrastructure,
donde le niegan el derecho
where
esencial a la educación a
students
cientos de miles de niños que
are
estudian en las
not
escuelas públicas de nuestro
actually
país. Los fenómenos naturales no son el
attending
desastre. Los
classes.
desastres son quienes
So
han mal administrado las cosas y
disasters
por años
are
le han
also
privado a
related
los
to the
estudiantes
lack of
su derecho
governance and
constitucional a la educación,
the
cuando
lack
su
of
intención siempre
real
ha sido
access to the right
su
to
intención siempre ha
education.
sido
The
desmantelar
government has always
y por eso,
uh,
¿verdad? La necesidad de organizarnos de forma solidaria en la unión con
privatizing
las comunidades
the
para defender
system.
los
So
derechos del pueblo a la
the
educación.
community in unions
Entonces,
have come together to protect their rights.
esto es lo que les mencionaba. ¿Cuáles son los efectos en el proceso educativo
We share the
de nuestros
effects
niños?
on the
Porque obviamente
educational
con la
process.
pandemia no había protocolos
Of
para
course,
trabajar con la
the lack of
emergencia,
protocols to deal
la
with the
interrupción
emergency,
del tiempo que estuvieron cerradas las escuelas, afectó
time
no solamente al
interruptions.
rendimiento académico, afectó el
Schools were
proceso
closed,
socioemocional
so
de nuestros niños
there
y
was an
niñas,
increase in the poor academic
incluso
achievement
la cantidad de
results.
estudiantes que
More
desertaron sus
students
sectores escolares a raíz de tanto tiempo que estuvieron
drop
fuera
out of
de nuestras
school.
escuelas y produjo el cierre y consolidación de cientos de
The
escuelas
closing
en
and
nuestra vecina
consolidation of
región.
schools have caused a
Estos
large
efectos
amount
son
of
directos y
emotional damage.
representativos
These are direct impacts
causados
of the
por diferentes
educational
políticas,
process due
¿verdad?
to the
De los
different
gobernantes
crises.
propios. Sin embargo, a pesar de que todo esto ha estado pasando en nuestro país, han estado ocurriendo también cosas maravillosas. Entre
This is the
la
good
década del
and positive
98 y
side
la
of
actualidad, la
what we have
Federación
been
de Maestros y
experiencing.
Maestras de Puerto Rico ha sido un protagonista crucial
The Teachers
en la
Federation
lucha en
has
contra de las
played a key
universidades
role in the
que
struggle
llamaban
against
hacia
the
un nuevo
neoliberal
curso y al ajuste
policies
fiscal impuesto por el
driven
gobierno
by
federal
the
colonial
local
de los Estados
government and
Unidos.
the Federal Oversight Management Board.
¿Y qué hizo la federación ante el ataque desmesurado del
What
gobierno, de la
have the
legislatura,
union
de la Junta y del ajuste
done?
fiscal? ¿Cuál fue la respuesta de la Federación de
Which were the
Maestros y Maestras de Puerto Rico
responses
ante estos
from the
ataques?
union
Vamos a ver ahora,
members
¿verdad?,
to
cómo
all
la
these
unión
disasters?
trascendió y más allá de ser un sindicato, nos convertimos en
We
un movimiento
actually
por la justicia social.
became
En
a
este momento en Colombia,
social movement.
todas las uniones representan trabajadores y trabajadoras con
Unions
necesidades particulares,
represent
con
teachers,
situaciones
different
distintas,
levels with different
pero
needs,
hemos sabido a través
specific
de los años que
scenarios.
el
But
deber de
throughout the
protección
years, we have
trasciende al
understood that we should
gremialismo y
actually
trascender
go
a las discusiones
beyond
gremiales y trabajar como un
union
único partido
issues and
por todos
work
merecer.
together
Y lo
as
que
a
hoy el gobierno
collective for the
lo hizo
country
la Federación de Maestros de
to
Puerto Rico
take the
en la
place of the
eventualidad de estos
government
desastres
in case
naturales, con otras
of
compañeros y compañeras
emergencies or
solidarias de
crises,
diferentes organizaciones de
together
maestros
with other
y fuera de
organizations
Puerto Rico. Por ejemplo, eso que ven ahí, inmediatamente
inside and
después de
outside
los
of Puerto
huracanes
Rico.
Irma y María,
So Urma Maria hit
los
the
compañeros de
island,
NISNA,
and
el New York State Nurses
NESNA, New York
Association, su
State
presidenta
National
y yo
Association,
nos enlazamos para establecer
both
clínicas de
the
emergencia en las
union and
escuelas
them,
públicas de Puerto Rico y
we
vinieron muchísimas enfermeras,
bring
psicólogos,
efforts
trabajadores sociales
and we
escolares a atender a los
brought
estudiantes de
specialists
forma holística para velar por su salud integral,
to
para que
assess in
estuviesen
a
bien,
holistic
que
way
tuviesen un
our
lugar seguro para
students to
vivir,
see
que
whether
tuviesen
they
la
could have
habilidad
a
para hacer
roof
exámenes
in a
y
household
para
to
dar
live
apoyo a
in,
los
to
niños y
provide
muchos estudiantes que
benefits
habían
and
perdido sus hogares
even
y
provide
estuvieron
emotional
las
support to those
clínicas y
students
los
that were
estudiantes, sus familias que
impacted
tuvieron que irse del
due to
país y que tuvieron más
migration,
de un año sin
if their
electricidad.
families or
Bueno,
they even spent a
estuvieron
year
huyendo
without
huyendo sin
electricity.
agua, sin luz
There
fuera.
are several
Tuvimos que
regions in the
comunicar con
country that
muchos pueblos
suffer from
y
the lack of
ante la
water,
desesperación de esta gubernamental,
electricity,
la
lack of
solidaridad
communication,
no fue nuestra
solidarity.
con
of the union, together with our partners, actually provide that hope. This school roof was rebuilt. We worked together with the FMPR. We went together with the union members and we repaired the roof. The roof that they have is the roof that we repaired together with partners so that students can come back to the facilities so that they can come together and meet and be together with their classmates and teachers. This is how the roof looked like. This is the finished work. 12 hours of hard work. Whenever I look at these images, I get very excited. You see myself and Rosa. We see that trees fall into her house. And I have Miguel and the others. We organize brigades together with teachers, students, and we help those in need, especially where government was not present. This is a retired teacher. Lots of trees also fall into in her roof, and Gioconda Belli said once that solidarity is actually the kindness of people. And you see the best coming out from people. And solidarity arises, especially in these times of concern. This is Utuado, a landslide that affected a house. You see that everything was blocking the entrance of his house. So we had teachers, colleagues, peers. We had other union members that came to help, worker unions. We built different solidarity groups with different unions, with the civil society as well.
Parte del trabajo también obviamente consistió en embellecer los espacios. Aquí estamos viendo a los maestros decorando los
Here in this image, you see how teachers were preparing the schools. They're painting, drawing, especially for those kids that suffer so much, that lost their families, students that lost their homes, that were homeless. Teachers represented hope to them. In part of that hope meant to decorate schools. This is a team of colleagues from southern parts of the US. They provide medicine, batteries, lanterns. They were all working on a solidarity basis. Solidarity not only among Puerto Ricans, but also other US citizens who voluntarily came to the island to help us.
Como bien les mencionaba, al gobierno de turno no le bastaba con que estuviésemos defendiendo el derecho de un pueblo a tener una vida digna, una
We
vivienda
were
digna,
defending the rights to education, to housing.
que ese era el momento idóneo para hacer como hicieron en New Orleans y a través del
The
capital estatal
government
las escuelas. Y no
were
solo
closing
que
schools.
apoyo mutuo a las comunidades,
We had them to provide support to the communities, but we also organized with them to prevent more closures to take place. This is a school closer in Peñuelas, in the mountain areas. They were fighting together with union members to stop the school closures. At the end, this school remained open.
Esas imágenes que ven ahí, pues son imágenes de la Federación de Maestros. Cuando decimos que vamos a defender la educación pública,
These are images of teachers' federations marching.
como les mencioné, que se llamaba Julia Kelleher, convicta por corrupción, que entendía que ese momento era el momento
The former Secretary of Education I mentioned before, she was closing schools, and we went to her office as we have 21 leaders who came to her.
Ante la negativa a esta señora de abrir nuestras escuelas para recibir a la niñez que estaba tan
We
necesitada, no solamente
claim for our schools to be open.
su alimentación completamente de las escuelas públicas en nuestro país.
It is important to mention that some children eat at school. They have breakfast or lunch. But the time that we were suffering from all the impacts of different events, those schools were the places where children could come to it. So we organized these different civil disobedience protests. And after a few days, all schools that were closed, around 300 at that time, were reopened.
Ahí fue cuando salimos que estábamos celebrando que nos dejaron ir. Próxima.
These are images of our celebration.
Después de que ocurre el huracán, como les menciono, se crea
after the hurricane, an educational reform began aiming at privatizing schools. And we all together came out to the streets to fight to avoid privatization of the educational system. The government was unable to privatize the 300 schools that they intended to sell to the private sector. Communities struggling, saying no to privatization, defending public education. Next one.
Cuando pensamos de qué es capaz el pueblo, muchas veces tendemos, ¿verdad?, a subestimar el poder que tenemos.
Sometimes we do not actually understand how powerful we are if we are together. In summer 2019, millions of inhabitants went out to the streets 2 weeks. All unions were out there. Community organizations were protesting. We made it possible. We made the governor of Puerto Rico to leave office. And that's exactly what we can actually get if we come together and fight together. Resilience is something that we have learned. Children are always searching for joy and happiness. We have worked together with an organization with some brigades and community groups. We created the School Without Walls project. In the southern part of the island, infrastructure collapsed. So we created these open spaces where they were working on arts. It- of course, they weren't able to attend the school, but then we brought school to them to this project. This is Papel Machete, the organization that supported this project. They were there every day and they were creating this happy space. Solidarity has actually been key. As I mentioned before, it is important to see how we work together as a federation, BCTF, and other partners we have been working on for several years. We are one group with the same needs, same thoughts, and we even went beyond being only a union to become a defender of the public education, of the environment. We defend a universal health service to all. And we were defending happiness. Part of our struggle means to be happy, to live, hope provided by children, by workers, hope to build our country step by step. With these solidarity actions, we get another level of victory in our struggle. We are still organizing. Government is losing defenders, and throughout these years, thanks to our struggle and hard work, we will improve our life. 85% of teachers in Puerto Rico are mainly women. Hopefully, they won't need to have other jobs. They may probably also have some spare time. Some of the wins during the pandemic, the following: vaccination, 100% vaccination, especially for those teachers and students. So we were able to get someone at the school. We also won that one nurse per school, the warranty of vaccination for all, a paid COVID license for teachers, remote teaching for teachers that were more vulnerable to get sick, access to printed modules, a Wi-Fi system or internet connections for all students and teachers. Protocols and safety guidelines were also created to guarantee safety. Those who have already retired, those that have become examples. We were able to get into an agreement. Marches stopped the cut projected by the government to cut of 8.5% of their pensions. The teachers were fighting for a dignified retirement and a fair salary. We may lose some battles, but not the whole war. We got the retirement plan and we got the replacement. We will keep on fighting. Teachers are not responsible for the debt, so we do not have to pay with our pension, with our retirement funds. This is a struggle that we still have on, and we will try to still fight for that dignified retirement fund. That might not be a victory, but we actually were able to get the reestablishment of the scale program. And we will get that increase of pay to 81%. So a teacher nowadays could earn 138% more. Annual salaries may probably be of 81 US dollars, which represent a huge difference in the life of teachers. This is a process not only to educate, but we also learn from our students. I don't know whether we can watch this video, but we have these teachers and allies marching together, claiming for that retirement plan. More than 45,000 teachers come together. In 2022, last year, due to Fiona, we were able to collect a response fund. We impacted our entire union members, and we were providing a 100 mutual aid check with all the different educational system professionals were able to get that check. Solidarity brigades were helping at schools, providing food supplies to families. We also got generators due to the lack of energy. Teachers organized census and they were able to provide generators. People that needed therapy because of some respiratory diseases were and they were given these generators. More than 10,000 people were impacted with generators. We also sent mattresses. So we went through the review of the different needs in order to collect water, for instance, in places where they did not have access to it, generators, mattresses, kitchens, things that people will actually need in their daily life and that were not provided by the government. we did not only collect the different products, but we were also willing to distribute them to our communities. We were able to use some specific spaces where we were providing courses to the children, and in those specific places, we were also distributing the different items to the community. This is Mares, the Mares team, helping in one of the areas that were heavily flooded. Where are we now? The neoliberal agenda still wants to dismantle the public education and privatize it. Implementation of models on fashion are still in discussion. So we had a specific commission working on the reflection of these charter models. We have a specific social movements, workers movements, citizen movement, Segarra movement, a community movement, people from the US. We're all struggling together. We want to fight against the dismantling of the public education to avoid it to become a business. They want just to widespread poverty and give priority to the few. They socialize the losses, but capitalize on the gays. And we see also efforts on a moratorium for those charter models. Next week, we are organizing a march. We hope it to be a massive march so that they actually know that there's people defending public education, that we wanted to become stronger. That's a constitutional right. And different people, different groups, associations, professors from the University of Puerto Rico, political party representatives, unionists, we are all struggling with solidarity, and we also get connections at international level. We are defending the workers. We're struggling for a better country, struggling for climate. We're doing our part to leave a legacy to the new generations. I've been leading this federation for 8 years. This is my last term, and it's been a privilege for me to see and reflect on the different struggles to provide to our children, to leave our children with that great heritage of my country. As Paulo Freire mentioned once, educators has the duty of not being neutral. Justice is always our path. We're always defending children, workers, and public education. Thank you.
Awesome, Mercedes. Gracias por todo. I hope that you will be able to fix your phone. Hopefully she can still hear us. Thank you so much for sharing. This was so interesting. And I completely agree that as educators, we cannot stay neutral because there are so many issues in the world that we cannot pretend that they do not exist. Mercedes, I don't know if you can hear us. Otherwise, I would open, maybe we have a few minutes if ever anybody has a question or comment before we conclude. I don't know if Diana, if you wanted to say something, I see your camera's on.
Oh yeah, just I wanted to thank Mercedes who's not on the call right now because of the phone issues. But I'm very very mindful, right, of again the impact of privatization on the island, and it's affecting the way Mercedes is connecting with us today. And for those, she did mention a few times Luma, right, the energy distribution company in Puerto Rico, which is a Canadian and US jointly owned company, and the Canadian company ATCO is based in Calgary, Alberta. So there is very much a Canadian connection to the crisis in Puerto Rico. We have in the chat Daisy Marquez from Honduras, I believe, yes, who says, hello, everyone. My respects to Mercedes and the work she's doing. Definitely a great leader, of course. And Monchita as well, also from Honduras, different teachers organizations. I believe they're as well educators from the region. Perhaps anyone in the chat would like, or anyone who's attending would like to share their thoughts and any comments, or even their own experiences with similar challenges in their own context, whether in Canada or in elsewhere around the world. Oh, there's Alexandra. Maybe you want to introduce yourself, Alexandra, to Marie-Catherine and to the rest of the attendees.
Well, I think that I know most of the people that are attending the event today. But Marie-Catherine, my name is Alexandra. I'm the person that is responsible for the education program at Co-Development Canada. I have the pleasure and honor and excitement of working with different partners from Latin America, and one of them from with the FNPR, right? But I wanted to tell this to Mercedes. I'm so sorry. Well, I'm very sorry that she's not here, but I've always wanted to say how inspiring the work that they're doing in Puerto Rico, like, is for us. Like, I come from a country where, from Colombia, and it's a country where repression to any political activities are happening every day, or is happening every day. But I see that the work of the FNPR is so inspiring, is because they do so much work fighting for justice, as she was saying, as Mercedes was explaining, fighting with others for the same cause. I think that is, and I wanted to ask Mercedes the challenges that they found to work with different organizations from different sectors, right? How, like, if they found any challenges, and if she could maybe tell us a little bit about how they've been able to overcome those challenges, because in any group of or collective of organizations, there's always like political differences and challenges, right? So I'm always interested in hearing from people that are working, have been able to work with other organizations, how they manage the differences and the challenges, so they can be focused on their goal and be able to achieve so much as the FNPR and with all the other community and social organizations they're working with have been doing. So I just wanted to say that, and I wanted to hear from Mercedes, but I think that it will be next time. Oh, Mercedes is back. But I don't know if there's gonna be time for her to answer or if there's any other questions, but I'll be happy to repeat my question for Mercedes if there's any time.
Yeah, there's 4 minutes.
Mercedes, ¿tú me escuchas?
Te escucho.
Hola, Mercedes.
Hola.
Hi, Mercedes, can you hear us? Yes, sorry. I have 1% battery, so I'm not turning on my video or camera. That's okay. Though I was actually saying that every time I listen to you when you share from your work in Puerto Rico, it's always so inspiring to actually see all what you have achieved. So maybe can you share some of the challenges that you face, or at least one challenge that you face when you're working with other groups or organizations or other sectors in Puerto Rico? Because we know that whenever we're working collectively, there are differences, political differences, but maybe I would like to hear from you. How are you able to work together to move through the process beyond those challenges or differences? Thank you, Alexandra, and thanks for your work as well in co-development. Well, we will always face challenges. There are always difference at the multi-sectorial level, but we actually try to focus on our common grounds. We always work on safety rules. What are we going to do? What are we accepting? What are we not accepting at all? Which are the rules to discuss, debate? We all participate. One voice, one mic, for instance. It's one of the rules. It's specific rules to communicate to. In every meeting, we agree on the ground rules. I think differences are okay. Debates are good. We need to discuss. We need to reach an agreement. And if there's no agreement, we try to work on the common ground. We have an alliance with different stakeholders. We will have probable civil disobedience activities. Some may agree with that, some others not. So whoever wants to join, that's okay. There are different styles, different organizations, but we always try to find the common points. We respect each other, we value the work of the others, and we recognize the efforts of all. We all want to help. If we have the government and the board, I mean, together, we also need to come together as workers to fight for a dignified life. And that's how we work.
Thank you. Muchas gracias, Mercedes. A ver, supongo que había otras preguntas, pero que no tenemos.
You may have other questions, but we do not have time.
Bueno, I will thank you very much, Mercedes. Muchísimas gracias por compartir. Por compartir, fue muy interesante.
Thank you for sharing all your
Thank you very much,
context.
as well to Diana, who accepted our invitation, the invitation from Spur Change. The CoDev accepted the invitation, and then also suggested to invite Mercedes to actually share so we can hear another perspective on what is happening in Puerto Rico, which I think is really great that we can actually share outside of Canada on like good practices in for educators. Yeah, and not only what happens in the classroom, but also outside of the classroom, which I think is really great, and how we can like bring the communities together. Thank you so much also to everyone who came, who participated. And thank you, Viviana, Mayra, and Danielle for the interpretation, which allowed us to hear in all of the languages that we speak here. Thank you, everyone. I don't know, Diana or Mercedes, if you had any last words. Otherwise, we would wrap up here. Thank you.
Well, I just wanted to thank you all. And I shouldn't have the last word if Mercedes would like to have the last word.
No, solamente darle las gracias por esta oportunidad tan
Thank you once
maravillosa,
again for the
con
opportunity.
esperanza de seguir construyendo. Diana tiene nuestra información de contacto.
Diana, you have
Pero
already my
obviamente la
contact
solidaridad
information.
es
Solidarity
así que lo que ustedes
has
necesiten de parte de la
always
Federación de Maestras y
to
Maestros,
weigh
pues
on
con mucho
behalf
gusto
of our
nos dejan
union.
saber sobre
We're
las luchas que
always
están librando
here. We also want to hear
para poder
from your
erradicar.
struggles
Para mí ha
so
sido
that we
un
can also
privilegio poder
support
compartir con
those.
todos ustedes
And
y
it's been a
celebrar
pleasure
el
to
día
be with you.
no solamente
Apologies
del
for
agua,
the
pero
electricity issues, the technical
porque
issues,
nosotros
but
estamos
I
aquí
think
con
it is
ustedes y
really
seguir
important to
solidificando
be
las
with
relaciones que
you
tenemos
to
gracias a
support
ese
our
apoyo
work.
de
Thanks
toda esta
for
hora.
being
Y ya saben, estamos aquí.
connected at this
Gracias
time,
por
and
sentirse
thanks for spur
acompañados
change and
de nuestras experiencias,
co-development
porque son
in the
precisamente los
CTF,
ejemplos
because
concretos de lo que
these are the
representa
concrete
la solidaridad
examples
trasciende las
of
fronteras, ¿verdad?
solidarity
Y es
beyond
maravilloso.
borders.
Así que muchas gracias de mi parte por esta oportunidad.
Thank you once again for the
Well,
opportunity.
thank you, thank you, thank you. Gracias, gracias, gracias. Another thing that I wanted to say is that the recordings in the 3 languages, French, English, and Spanish, as well as the presentation, will be made available on our resource library in the next weeks, Spur Change. And if there's any other information that Mercedes wants to share with us, we could add it there. So stay tuned for more information there, and stay tuned for our next Share and Learn. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.